Nothing ever stays the same with the union executive team, and once again, you've guessed it, they're changing it up for the fourth time in 5 years. This is Newsflash. This year, a brand new exec structure is being put in place. Gone are the days of the 13 EOs and the 3 DOs, with instead a radically new system being put in place. There will be 3 tiers of sabbatical officers. In the top tier, there will now be 5 major officers. These are the union president, the union vice president, the education officer, the sport officer, and the welfare and diversity officer. These 5 sabbatical officer positions will deal with the day-to-day running of the union, leaving the others to deal with the operation of their sections, cleaning up the union's bureaucracy and making the organisation more efficient at the top. The new position of AU clubs officer will replace the AU intern and will be paid and voted on by the AU members. Sitting below these will be the section chairs. These are, as always, Action, RAG, Media, Societies and Enterprise and Employability. Each of these section chairs will be able to focus purely on their section as paid officers and will be elected by all union members. However, this is not without controversy. Media will be the only unpaid section head position. And although there are claims that media will stay consistent and in line with the other section chairs, there are doubts about whether this will degrade media as a position. However, they will retain their intern. Alongside these section chairs will sit the final 3 positions: the international chair, the postgrad president, and the college president. The postgrad president and the international chair will both be unpaid positions, but both will be elected by only their own members. The same applies to college, while the college president will be paid. However, with the structure more complicated than ever, will students feel disenfranchised by the new system?
I'm hoping that the things coming out from our channels will explain exactly what's changing and why. I acknowledge that from the outside it might look a little bit complicated, but hopefully people can understand that we've done this to streamline the process, to make it easier. And as engagement was dropping year on year with our elections as a whole and within the union, we thought that we need to make at least some form of change to try and counter this. And we acknowledge that not everything's going to go right the first time over, but if we don't try it, who's going to?
So why did you change it in the first place?
As I said before, the streamlining of the decision process is one, but also the section heads have been elected to represent their sections, and they felt in the past that as executive officers they had a lot of extra responsibilities that they didn't have time, that meant they didn't have time to invest energy into their sections as they should. So hopefully being elected, or hopefully being section heads only, they can pump all their energy and resources into running the section.
So there's been 4 changes in 5 years to the executive structure, to the team. Does this show sort of indecisiveness between years? You're not quite sure what you want?
Years before, the attitude has been, oh, we want to start doing this as a union, and therefore the best way to go about that is to add on another member of the executive team as a development officer or an executive officer. We think that may have been the best option then, but it's not something that we can currently sustain. So rather than stopping doing something as a whole, we would take away the responsibilities of them as a sabbatical, but doesn't mean we're going to stop doing certain things. So I don't think it's ineffectiveness of past execs. I think it could look like that, but I do think it's because at the time that was the best decision they could do, but we need to start making some change.
So how is the actual election process going to work this year?
So it will be shorter, it will be a week long. Campaigning will look vaguely similar but without costumes this year, which will be cool. The idea is to force people to be more creative with their budgets, trying to work out what makes them stand out as candidates and people, not just who can wear the silliest costume. I acknowledge that it has been good before, but as I said, we wanted to make some change, and it is going to be trial and error. Whoever takes over from myself next year can build upon things that went well, things that didn't go so well this year. But as I said, we need to make some change, and if we're not going to try it, and if I'm not going to try it, then who's going to?
It's been clear for a while that the exec structure needed changing, and whether you like it or not, the effects of this will be seen at the exec elections in February. I'm Joshua Gray reporting for LSUTV.